All right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is the February 21st, 2024 meeting of the Bicycle Advisory Pedestrian Advisory Committee. And let me call the roll here. Edwin Claflin.
Here.
Michelle Kramer.
Here.
John Maintinan.
Here.
Joseph Topham.
Here.
RJ Turcott.
Here.
Ian Golding here. So first order of business is election of officers. So anyone?
Mr. Chair, the way we've done this in the past is someone will verbally nominate themselves, or another member will they'll nominate someone else. We do need to fill the chair and the vice chair position. So if you want to take nominations, I have to keep tally.
Sure. Can you put your volume up just a hair? Or is that? Anyway, all right. So I'll put my name forward to continue as chair. To go from vice chair to chair, if people are so inclined to approve that.
I'd second that.
Thank you, Joseph. Any other names for chair? So any thumbs down? Or should I call it? Should I ask for a roll call vote on that?
If there's no other nominations, Mr. Chair, yeah, it'd probably be appropriate to do a roll call vote.
Okay, so by roll call vote to approve of Ian Golding as chair, Edwin Claflin.
Aye.
Michelle Kramer.
Aye.
John Mintanen.
Aye.
Joseph Topham.
Aye.
RJ Turcott.
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll do my best to not make a complete hash of things going forward. For vice chair, does anybody wish to throw their hat into the ring?
Who's most responsible after Ian?
Michelle,
You are,
want to
Jay.
throw your hat
You
in the
are,
ring?
I do it.
Is that RJ?
Yes, I'll throw my hat in.
Okay.
I'll second RJ.
Okay. So by roll call vote, Edwin Claflin,
Aye.
Michelle Kramer,
Aye.
John Mintanen,
Aye.
Joseph Topham,
Aye.
RJ Turcott,
Aye.
Ian Golding, aye. Welcome as my, at the very least, right-hand man. Thank you, RJ. So,
Thank you, guys.
well, thank you, Joe. So approval of minutes are yet to be read. So that brings us on to action and discussion items. And the first one is Nantucket Pedicab review request for amendments to chapter 316 pedicabs of the town regulations, including 3161 allowing pedal assist bicycles, 3162A to allow for 4 pedicab licenses, 3162P allowing fees for pedicab service as opposed to gratuities, and 3164A3 extending service area map. Mike, would you like to lead us through this?
Sure. Sorry, wrong mic.
Whichever one, Mike or Michael?
Mike Gromley is probably the most appropriate person to describe each of these items. I'll just note, Mr. Chair, that each of these 4 items have already been reviewed by the Traffic Safety Work Group and have made a recommendation, but I'll let Michael Gromley kind of take you through each of these items. And Michael Gromley, if you want to talk about these in the order that they're listed on the agenda, that'd be appreciated.
Absolutely. So I guess I'll largely just be hoping to received the same recommendation from traffic safety, which was they voted to recommend allowing pedal assist for the bicycles. So I had the pedal assist for the pilot season with the governor 15 miles an hour, and that was objectively a good thing. Is good for flow of traffic, for business safety. I don't think there's a single downside to having the pedal assist. So I guess we could discuss them each item by item if anyone has any comment on that.
Any comments from committee members on pedal assist as opposed to sweating it out? Okay. So go ahead, Michael.
Alrighty. So the next order would be to have 4 pedicab license. I had 2 this past season, which was very busy. We were not able to accept our fullest orders. We had to reject multiple calls, and furthermore, we had a QR code attached adhered to both of the pedicabs that was open to any feedback from the public, none of which included any concerns. So if there were no problems with traffic or safety or anything along those lines with the 2, then I imagine there would be no further problems with 4. Furthermore, Chief Pittman during the not the most recent traffic safety meeting because he wasn't there, but the one prior attested that he didn't get a single complaint about the pedicabs on the roads during the trial period. So does anyone have any comments they'd like to share about expanding the license from 2 to 4? All right, I can move on to the next item. Unless anyone would like to share, but all right, so the next item would be allowing fees for the pedicab service for gratuities. So one of the regulations for the pilot season was that I was not allowed to charge. My only form of income would be via gratuity, which wasn't awful, but it's not much of a business structure to I mean, even the customers to a large degree were uncomfortable with it when if it was a new service on island, so a lot of people had zero context as to what an appropriate payment would be. So I think a lot of people, customers and myself included, would be more comfortable if I would be able to just propose a pre-agreed upon price for them to pay before they got on the pedicab, and then they would pay at the conclusion of the ride. So does anyone have any comments regarding this?
And what would the fee be? I mean, I agree that there should be a fee, but I was just wondering what the fee would be.
It'd be something reasonable. I do like the kind of, especially even as it's early on in the season, or in its lifespan, I like to make it so that we just kind of get as many people on it as possible. So I definitely wouldn't want to be offensive with the charging at any point. And the reason why I'm not sure of a direct answer is because I think it'll fluctuate between seasons. But I think we're generally looking for people that want to rent it for an hour, be it weddings or events. Roughly $100 per pedicab per hour. And then for rides, I'll probably do the $10 to $20 a ride range. But again, all of this will be discussed and agreed upon with the customer prior to the ride happening. So there wouldn't be any hidden fees or anything along those lines.
I actually don't know. Is there regulation in town that sort of, I don't know if there's like a max that cabs in general can ask for? I just curious again.
I believe the cabs rate is regulated. That being said, I don't think Uber or Lyft's rates are regulated. So my thought would be, since this is an entirely different license that we've created separate from um, taxi license, and it kind of appeals to it is entirely separate because we appeal to a different demographic of taxi cabs, where a lot of people are doing it. I mean, we certainly are a necessity for some people with mobility issues that really do need that few block help. But then a lot of people are also just doing it for a whimsical, fun experience rather than a taxi cab, which can be very essential for medical services or whatnot.
So
Good afternoon.
Yes, go ahead. So can we not screen share for a moment, Mike, so I can see people? And would you mind raising your hand before speaking? Because that just makes it easier for everybody. So Edwin, you had a question? Yeah. And you're muted, Edwin.
Sorry, I thought I was hitting the space bar to unmute. Just quick question. So in the zone map that's that was on the screen, did the pedicabs utilize the full extent of the zone? And then within the cabs that are, sorry, the regular taxis that are on the island, they operate under a zoned fee structure. Would the pedicab, is there a proposal or thought process about how to generate the pricing scheme? And did you guys utilize the whole zone that was allowed? Thank you.
We did definitely use the whole zone that was allowed. Every bit of it was necessary. As a matter of fact, we had to reject a handful of rides, or sometimes we'd have to bring people like 3/4 of the way home or whatnot, because it would abut to our perimeter that we were allowed to operate. So that was definitely entirely necessary, hence why I'm hoping to slightly expand it. And and per the pricing structure, the reason why I don't want an explicit thing is because I feel like 4th of July weekend, I'd rather charge more than a Wednesday in October. So, but that being said, it would be a pre-agreed upon price with all the riders, that it'd be like, today, let's just generally tell people that a ride is $15. But I mean, if people think that the pricing isn't fair, then they won't ride. Especially early on in this process, we're trying to incentivize people to get on, because it's the first experience for a lot of people. So we're trying to, show them what a whimsical, fun, or useful thing it can be. So it would all be reasonable pricing, which is what I really enjoyed about the gratuity base. I mean, one of the things that is kind of like a silver lining along how we were forced to do gratuity based, as it got a ton of people in the tuk, and we definitely lost a lot of money for it, but I think it was a good investment for the first year to do that, even though we were forced into it. But
Does that answer your question, Edwin?
Yeah, that pretty much got it. Thank you.
So I have a question, Michael, because I would have thought that not posting a price is an open invitation to having arguments at the end of the ride. And I don't see why you can't change the posting of the prices depending on on your business decision. But I'm not comfortable personally with you not posting a price so that people know exactly what they're getting into. So so is this uneasiness shared by any of the other committee members, or? So, Mike, I see your hand went up, and RJ, I see you put your hand up, so. Mike, is that beyond our purview per se, or
No, I just said, can you hear me okay? Is this all right?
can you speak up? I can't hear you.
Uh, you can't hear me very
Well,
well?
vaguely,
Yeah, I'm
just, I
trying
wouldn't
to.
like to lose any of your words of wisdom.
Well, I can say that we did talk about this at traffic safety. The same questions were asked there. And I was looking through my notes and maybe I didn't write it down, but Michael Gromley, it was approved at traffic safety to allow the fee, versus the gratuity. But it was without any clarity on what that fee structure would be. And I want to say that was going to be presented to the board rather than to the subcommittees. Is that right? Am I recalling that correctly?
Yes.
So,
Mr. Chair, I don't know if that helps.
yeah, I mean, well, first of all, there's RJ and Joseph. So RJ,
Yeah, I see where you're getting at, Ian. I think there's probably an easy way to get around that with if we're gonna allow fares to be charged just to have them posted. I mean, Mike, we're not saying you're gonna gouge, but that tends to be what happens in the industry, which is why hotel rooms on the back of the door tell you what the maximum legally they can charge is. It's why cab drivers have the systems they have. So maybe adopting one of those and having it posted. And obviously there are going to be holidays and there's going to be rate changes throughout the season, but having them clearly posted for the rider before they get in, I think would settle my concern with this. As far as arguments go, you get in, you know how far you're going, this is how much money it costs, and just leave it at that. And if as a business owner you decide that you need to change the price because you're busy, it's a holiday, you're shorthanded, whatever, you still have the discretion to do that. But there's like an established system for you to do the pricing.
thank you, RJ. Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with what RJ just said. The other before he started to speak, I was wondering if he did it by the mile, but I just didn't know if that was something. So if someone said, I want to go for X amount of time and go for a ride and go a sightseeing, we could do it by the mile. And I don't know if that would be something that would be an option to kind of think about. But I do think something should be posted so anyone gets, hails them down, they have some sense of what it's going to cost or a rough idea. So it's just different perspective.
Thank you, Joseph. So, Michael, there's, I think, the sense of the committee that we should post the price.
So I mean, I definitely see the value to a predetermined price. But my only concern is like sometimes, especially during lulls or slower times, I'll give significant discounts on rides. So I feel as if like a posted price is difficult because even the pricing from right when general dinner time is letting out is I would prefer that to be higher than in the midst of when a typical dinner time is, just as it's consistently fluctuating. I would be really open to a regulation that goes along the lines of how there must be a pre-agreed upon price with the customer and no additional fees past that agreed upon price. But it just seems a bit limiting and like an unnecessary additional step to have to post it and be changing it every couple hours as the market is constantly shifting on the sidewalks.
RJ?
I mean, I would think what could be comparable to getting like a market price lobster at Crew or something. How you just ask the server what does it cost, and it can change from day to day. But
Interesting analogy.
right, yeah.
All right, thank you, Michael. RJ?
I get that too, Mike, and I think that Lyft and Uber have pretty formulaic method for determining. I mean, I just came back from Logan Airport last week, and it's a lot more expensive around dinner time than it is during the slower parts of the day. And I think you could also post your peak rates and say this is when rush hour, dinner time, when the ferries come in. If like you made a lot of money that way, getting Highline people in their bags to an Airbnb or wherever they were going, I think you could, as part of your posting, I mean, you could look into, if you haven't already, Lyft and Uber and how they price for peak hours, and then just have that as part of the posting too. So like everything's agreed upon. Everybody knows where it's at before they get in.
So, all right, so Mike Burns, would you please note that the sense of the committee is that there has to be a pricing structure?
A set pricing structure? Yes.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah, so. And then extending the service area map. So, Mr. Gormley, would you like to talk to us about that?
you want me to share this part of it?
Sure, thank you. It was jamming up my ancient iPad.
I just hope my microphone works, that's all.
Well, to start off, Mike, could you please show where on the downtown map where and I'm sorry, I should have checked this before, but where we agreed with traffic safety to do you have that edited map readily available?
No, I don't think that was ever finalized. I think that the step was to have our GS coordinator change these lines, and I don't know if that actually happened or not. Well, obviously it didn't happen. I didn't get a copy of it, but I can get that. But just to let the BPAC know, there was some uncomfortableness with including the Stop and Shop area, the areas between Sparks Avenue and Pleasant Street, going up to essentially the Angola area. The appetite was not to include Atlantic Avenue, Sparks Avenue, and those sections, but Pleasant Street was essentially acceptable, but not Prospect Street or Sparks Avenue, that corridor. So basically, we sliced off the southern edge of this polygon all the way down to West Creek Road, and then from West Creek Road go northeast, I suppose, to basically block off the rotary. There was a strong feeling that the pedicab should not be circulating through the rotary, should not be along Sparks Avenue, and should not be on Prospect Street. So those sections were kind of sliced off, if that makes sense.
So the map we're looking at
And
is the current one, and that's why it sort of ends at the rotary, so.
Exactly, that was the idea, but for at least for a lot of the traffic safety members, well, I guess all of them, because I believe it was unanimous, was to just not even get close to that base. There was really no point to really going further south than West Creek Road, so that's where it got cut off.
Got you. Okay. Yeah, Michael Gormley, you have your hand up.
Yes. So that's essentially what I am hoping to get approved here. It would be with the conditions that Mike just put forth. So this map, which isn't that different from what was proposed or approved with the pilot season. And would anyone else, I guess, have any questions or comments regarding that map? Keeping in mind what Mike just said.
So I'm slightly confused, Mike, and sorry to butt in, Edwin. This ends beyond West Creek Road. So is this not completely accurate, or this is what Mr. Gormley would like to add to it?
This is what I initially proposed, but the new proposal, and this was my fault. I thought that the edits that we did at the traffic safety meeting were, I didn't realize that the marker on it was temporary. I thought that was a permanent altering. So I should have checked up on that, which is my fault. But what I'm proposing would be exactly what traffic safety approved. So the extent of this map up to West Creek Road, so not including the rotary, and then with that kind of triangle along Prospect excluded as well.
Okay. Thank you. Edwin, I apologize for interrupting you.
No need to apologize, Mr. Chair. I have a point of order, first of all. Alphabetically, will I always be voting first? Is that where we are? Where the new member who is unaware of all the intricacies will be voting first? And then I have two questions, essentially. For me to understand the zone and sort of understand how everything was formulated, I've gone back and reviewed some of the older YouTube videos of previous meetings. But within Nantucket or Massachusetts in general, do we have either a width restriction on any of the bike paths or roads for vehicles, specifically like the tricycles, essentially? And then within the downtown historic area, do we currently have a posted minimum speed limit or like a no standing order in certain areas like the Stop and Shop parking lot, which is problematic, or other areas where congestion happens, just to alleviate any concerns about how this is going to be used in the future? Thank you.
Thank you. Mike Burns, would you like to answer that?
I don't think there's any restrictions on the width of, I think motorized is the restriction. So that's, and honestly, I don't know if there's any other vehicle that, that's wider than that. All that said, I don't believe that the pedicabs are permitted on the path, so that might be just a moot point. That the pedicabs can't use the path, so it's not something that's under, being discussed right now.
Right.
Just like sort of focusing on certain roads or areas that were considered problematic, was that because you could not get around, or is that what was the concern essentially?
The concern was public safety, conflicts with the truck route and freight vehicles. So the guidance was to avoid the truck route, like a Washington Street's included in this, but that was really the guidance that, the concerns that were voiced by others. I'm trying to recollect what other people gave as comments. The map is the map. But the concerns were, try to reduce this as much as possible from the truck route. So even the pilot period focused more so on the north side of the downtown area, Jetty's Beach area, Easton Street and whatnot, and not so much the Washington Street, Orange Street area.
So I see both Michelle and RJ's hand up. Michelle?
Yeah, I was just wondering, could it maybe be extended to farther up Cliff Road, so that you sort of let it border at Gosnell Road and Crooked Lane? I mean, that area sounds to me that there might be more customers actually there that might want to use it. I don't know if anyone ever thought about that, or whether that would be really like a no-go in that area. So, yeah.
Mike, did traffic safety have any discussion about that? Certainly going out to Crooked Lane and gets you towards Topsy Links and that sort of thing.
I don't believe we talked about expanding the district beyond what was being requested. So no, that wasn't discussed.
Okay. RJ?
Yeah, through you to Mike Gormley, do you have any established stands for pedicabs so they cabs to you anywhere on here? Or is that something you're going to be working on going forward?
So I'm sorry, just to clarify, the question is like kind of where we wait for business.
Yeah.
Kind of throughout, to be honest, I realize we get a lot more business when we stay mobile. I don't really like to sit somewhere and wait. I realize we get a lot less inquiries that way. But when we're like driving around town, for whatever reason, the chances of people kind of hailing us down and yelling out is much higher. That being said, sometimes like Beachside let us park on their property, so we would get a lot of business out of them. Nantucket Hotel lets us park their Salt, which it will now be rebranded to Brand Point Nantucket. They let us park in their parking lot. So I guess to answer your question, we try to stay mobile as much as possible, but when we are parked, it's on private property.
Okay, just checking. Thank you.
Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thought that the zone was more or less created based on not only traffic, but the speed, the top speed of the pedicab. So I feel like going anywhere beyond Cliff Road he would get overtaken or cause problems when, you know, it goes from 20 miles an hour up to 30 miles an hour. I feel like that would be the problematic. So that's what I'm trying to recall what we spoke about. I think it was over a year ago, but that's what I thought we ended up with, was that he stays within his top speed. And that was basically the core of the town. That's my understanding.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually. Thank you for reminding me. And Michael Gormley, I see your hand up. Before I want to answer Edwin's question about, so I listed it alphabetically, and I'm happy to put you at the bottom if you prefer. It's up to you, your call.
Just until I have my feet underneath me would be much appreciated. Thank you,
Okay,
Mr. Chair.
all right, duly noted. And Michael Gormley?
Yes, I just wanted to clarify that the Washington Orange Street area of it there was a part of the pilot season. We never went on the rotary, so that I think continues to not be included. Kearney Huser, who owns Your Friend with the Truck, gave a testimonial that he thinks that it wouldn't interfere with any trucking before the rotary, and we had 0 incidents. It worked really well to go on that end of town as well through the pilot season.
All right, so I think unless there are any further questions.
Just
Mr. Chair,
Yeah. Who was that?
Mr. Chair, if it's all right, I would just note that there is also a request to add the section along Bartlett Farm Road between the Bartlett Farm and Humboldt Pond Road, just to be clear that that's part of the requested district.
Well, thank you for bringing that up. How would they get out there if they're not allowed
The
on the
bed of my
bike
truck.
path? Sorry?
Yeah, they won't be going on. They won't be going on the bike path. I can fit 2 of them pretty easily in the bed of my truck, so I would just drive them out there and then drive them back.
Okay. So are we basically confirming what traffic safety has decided?
I'll note that, well, I can let you know that traffic safety did recommend not extending this district to the Bartlett Farm market and just having it between it's not just a brewery. I want to say Hummock Pond Road, but to the parking lot for the brewery, and no further down Bartlett Farm than the parking lot. I think that was like a 3-2 vote, or it was a little split, but that was what was recommended.
Okay. Any strong feelings one way or the other for committee members? And Joe, is your hand up on that or just up in general? Okay.
I've got to bring down. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Join the club. Well, I personally, I don't want to be butting heads with traffic safety over this, so my personal inclination is to go along with what traffic safety decided and see how this works for the year. Yes, RJ?
Just curious, Mike Burns or Mike Gormley, if you know, but what was their reasoning for not letting it go to the farm?
I could probably, the road would just be, I guess, not conducive for the pedicab traffic. There'd be too many conflicts, or the speed of the pedicab would be not high enough to where that might encourage some aggressive driving. I will say that I was one of the dissenting votes. I didn't think there was an issue with going down to the market. In fact, I thought it would be a good connection and a reason to use the pedicab. But it wasn't the dominant opinion.
Well, I guess, I mean, if you go to Bartlett's, assuming you're going there for shopping rather than tourism, then you want to take your shopping where you live. So I'm not sure I understand the advantage of having it. But yes,
I'll let-
Edwin. Go ahead, Edwin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the reason for the Bartlett Farm Road, is it mostly for ferrying guests from the brewery to the brewery parking lot for special events, or is this, could there be, I know we've seen the application for wedding outside the permanent zone, but is this essentially a permanent location for special holiday weekends for shuttling guests, and it just happens to go all the way to the farm, or is that, yeah, just a question about it, sorry.
Good question.
To answer that, the primary use, so this is per Jay Harmon's recommendation to me, actually, that he insisted initially there would be steady business through the summer to be shuttling people between the brewery and the satellite parking lot. So I would like to be out there on a regular basis. And then the extension to Bartlett Farms would be more on an events basis. So when Bartlett Farms would be doing some sort of event and people would want to then be shuttled to the brewery or vice versa. So the primary goal with this is to get the brewery to the parking lot. And although I do still think there would be added benefits to extending that to Bartlett Farms.
So potentially just like a pilot program for other places that could have locations and events for shuttling, essentially?
Yes. I'd be happy to do it as a pilot program.
Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Edwin just stole my thunder. I was wondering if like a week of, just seeing it out, what happens. I don't want to go against traffic and safety, but I just thought, if Cisco Brewery's wanting to shuttle people from the parking lot to the brewery, I think that would be kind of a fun little thing. But yeah, I think if we did a test of this and see someone monitor it, pay attention to it, see what happens, we get any reports, complaints, etc. But just do 1 week and then come back and reevaluate at the end of the year would be my suggestion.
I think that's a good compromise. So are you amenable to that? Everybody? And is that something you could draft, Mike Burns?
To be clear, the recommendation is to test this Bartlett Farm area, or is it just the area between the parking lot and the Bartlett Farm Market?
I would
Yes,
say test the whole area.
Yeah, all the way.
Yeah, if we're gonna do it, let's just check it out.
Okay.
And maybe Mike can just be coordinating day-to-day operations, just see how it's going.
Okay. Michael Gormley?
So it seems as if uh, I just want to clarify, it would be only permitted for a pilot week for all the way to Bartlett Farms, or are you saying we could do the full season from the brewery to the satellite lot, and then the controversial leg of that, which is from the satellite lot to Bartlett Farm, would that be just the week-long pilot?
I think
Because
my understanding is that it's, since none of us want to go against traffic safety, we're suggesting just a week for what you're advocating for, to see how it works out, so that you can then go to traffic safety next year and or during the course of the summer and make an argument for traffic safety approving it. So,
well, I think that would be going against traffic safety, as they approved for the whole season. They approved from the brewery to the satellite parking lot. So that
I'm
would be
sorry, I was
heavily.
understanding from Mike that they did not.
No, they didn't. What they didn't approve was just from the satellite parking lot to Bartlett Farms, but they did approve from the brewery to the satellite parking lot.
Thank you, my mistake.
So half of the leg they approved.
Yes,
So
Edwin.
would the
Yes, just a quick point. So they approved from the brewery to the satellite parking lot for that whole period of time, but not for the rest. Isn't the entire speed limit in that entire red zone all continuous anyway? So why would it make sense to not allow it all the way to Bartlett Farm?
Yes,
can
Michael Gormley.
I think the argument was that they thought traffic was more tame in that stretch, and they thought that traffic or cars are less tame in the remaining part of the road.
But under the current speed limit, it is the same speed limit to the entire region. And through being out to the brewery, most of the traffic turns off at the parking lot for the brewery. Is that not sort of the sentiment?
I think it gets pretty busy to Bartlett Farm during the summer. Wouldn't you say so, Edwin? Often the parking lot's completely packed.
No, I'm in agreement with that, but often if they've limited past the parking lot, that's where the traffic, I mean, under the speed limit signs there, I may be wrong, but I thought it was all consistent speed limit within that region. So if they've approved it in one region, it doesn't make sense to not approve it all the way to Bartlett Farm. I'm not making a recommendation either way. I'm just confused to why that decision would be made. Unless people are illegally speeding up past the brewery just to natural how much traffic there is.
Heaven forbid. All right, so are you amenable to Joseph Topham's suggestion that we add from the parking lot to Bartlett's for a week and see how that goes, and then come back to us? And that way you're putting a toe in the door of traffic safety.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, or do you just want to go ahead and put it to a vote, straight yes or no, as to whether we approve the extension for the summer? It's up to you.
I would love to hear others' opinion. I don't understand why they would limit it past that if it's all the same speed limit, essentially.
Well, you're not going to get any argument from me. So,
Did John have his hand up?
Yeah, I don't know how to put it up electronically.
okay, sorry, John, I didn't see you.
No, it's quite all right. Why? I don't see why we should be so concerned that we align ourselves perfectly with, or even mostly with the traffic and safety. I mean, we can have our own opinion.
I
And
think we're just developing it on this particular issue.
yeah, and I just, and for whatever it's worth, and I'm kind of, with Edwin, that I think if we're gonna suggest approval of part of it, we should approve the whole thing. And
All right.
honestly, the approving the busiest part, again, the pedicabs are pretty wide, and you're gonna make it even worse as they're going down um the road from between the brewery and the parking lot, because with people walking, um cars can barely get by, but they do, and now they're not even going to be able to get by.
Yeah.
That's my thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think everybody's thinking along those lines. Michelle?
Yeah, similar. Like other people have said, I also don't really get why just one part is then approved. I actually personally think the road along the brewery is scarier to drive or walk or bike by than the road near the near Bartlett Farm. I would also say if you approve the part around the brewery, then I would approve the whole thing. But
Okay. So, Michael Gormley, do you have anything to add, or let's just put it to a vote?
We could just put it to
Okay.
a vote.
So, anybody opposed to this? So I see none, so I think we all agree that after discussing it, that it makes sense to have it go from Hammock Pond Road to Bartlett Farm. So, Joseph Topham, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Okay, duly noted. Okay. So, Michael Gormley, good luck. And thank you
Thank you
for
very
coming
much.
before us.
Mr. Chair, just to be clear for the minutes, I'm noting that there was unanimous consensus to support all 4 requests.
Yeah,
Okay, very good.
well, including allowing a displayed fee.
Oh, excuse me, with that note, posting a price structure.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay, great. So that brings us on to Mid-Island Complete Streets Projects, review design and review design options for Lower Pleasant Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to skip through a lot of the material that you've already seen and go to this area of Lower Pleasant Street by the Stop and Shop and Island Pharmacy and areas. It was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting when sharing your recommendation that you made in December that the one-way option for a cycle path might have some conflict. Well, had some concerns with the conflicts between the cycle path and the parallel parking next to the Stop and Shop. That was shared with the design consultants. They had provided a few different options for spacing those areas, whether you have the cycle track between the sidewalk, have a cycle track, and then the parallel parking would be next to the stream of flow. That might be definitely more ideal than what's there now. There's another option that involves a crossing area for pedestrians that maybe fine as well. They also developed an option for bike lanes on either side of the one-way area. I'm not sure I'm a fan of this for the entire section of Pleasant Street, because it doesn't accommodate pedestrians along the areas closer to Five Corners. But I just wanted to share these options with you all to see if there was, any particular one that seems more preferable than the other. And I hope Joe appreciates the fact I'm not running through all these slides. He actually went through them last night. So
Thank you, and you can call me if you want.
Mr. Chair, this is just to share these other options for the Lower Pleasant Street with you all, since there was some appetite to consider the one-way flow. So I'm happy to take any comments from the committee on this, and nothing needs to be decided today. We can carry this over to next month if you'd like. But this is just to share with you all so that you're aware of what's being developed between staff and the design consultant.
So, questions? Yes, Michelle.
Sorry, it's actually not a question or comment on this. I just I need to leave at 3 or 4:30. I wanted to let you know that.
Oh, well, thank you. And all right. Do you have any? I'm speaking for myself. I'm puzzled how you could go to one-way in Lower Pleasant Street from two-way. Am I sort of missing? It seems constantly busy. How would you funnel the traffic around that area? And what's the I don't really understand the advantage of doing that.
Sure.
Am I just-
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
this was purely to accommodate. I mean, obviously the one-way option provided accommodation for both bicyclists and pedestrians, more so than the two-way option, which was a compromise and kind of
Right.
really required bicyclists to share the road in a number of different areas. So under the two-way system, bicyclists are kind of moot here. There'd just be sidewalks on both sides of Lower Pleasant, as well as further up Pleasant Street, closer to Five Corners. If there was the desire to accommodate bicyclists, there is the compromise and the trade-off of you do impact traffic flow, vehicular traffic flow. This design exercise of going through the different options for Lower Pleasant Street is to, consider additional options that might be safer for the bike traffic in this area. You're absolutely right. There is going to be some impact to options for driving in this area. If it's made one way, the idea of making it one way goes back a couple of decades. You might be familiar with some of the options for the Mid-Island area plan, and to have this be more of a main street type of aesthetic.
Right.
So that was the attempt. It's in the vein of accommodating bike traffic in this section of Pleasant Street if it were to be made one way.
So Joe, what happened? Oh, sorry, Edwin, go ahead.
Thank you. Feel free to take your time with me because I'm going to come up with lots of little small questions. Just a point, is there a reason? I think the most important aspects of this map would be the exit of the Stop and Shop parking lot across potentially a double lane or a pathway or two flows of traffic. And then also at the other end of the map would be the left to where Lucky Express used to be, that street there. Apologize, I'm forgetting road names because I've only was born here and raised here. I don't know all the road names, but I feel like those are the two most important sections of the map, in my view, of where potential cars would cross bikes, and those would be most important to be highlighted and how that flow of traffic would work.
It's a really good question.
And I gotta apologize, Mr. Chair, I don't have the entire set of plans. If it's worthwhile, we could maybe continue that and focus on those other ends of Lower Pleasant Street at a future meeting. And I'll make sure that I include the entire plan set to kind of answer those questions. I could probably
Sure.
jump online really quick, and I mean, I think they are on the project's website, but just for time reasons, I'll just say that I don't have them in the slide deck here.
Well, the
But
whole
you're
issue is Solomonic, isn't it? I mean, it's, like, how do you cut the baby in half? And obviously, we all would like it to be safer for bicyclists. But it's sort of, it's intractable. And I think, and Edwin, you're putting your finger on it, you know, if you have a bike path that they have to stop for, as well as traffic, it's not going to make it any easier. And Joseph, how did that pan out yesterday?
Well, there was no discussion. It was just Mike brought it up, and then Mike. I always like to say if Joe Totten has any, if I misrepresented, Joe Totten can fill in. So there was a quick little joke between Mike and I. So there was no discussion. It's going to go to the select board. So I basically said that Mike always pulls me out of the gangplank with him.
Okay.
Only because you're so much better at describing things than I am.
So, RJ,
So as of right now, that road is that intersection with Stop and Shop. There is nothing. I think any of these would be an improvement because right now the bikes, including myself, are just sharing the lane with the cars. So any sort of additional protection for that intersection would be great. I think it's kind of worst case right now. I know at the last meeting I mentioned this is the only place I've been doored is on Pleasant Street. And so I personally would prefer if the one way was to be seriously entertained to on the lower part of Pleasant Street here to look at switching those parallel parking areas with the multi-use path and having that right next to the sidewalk and having it be parking protected, which is what they're referring to. I think that's option 3, maybe. I can't see on the shared screen right now, but reversing those two, separating cyclists and pedestrians so they're closest to the Stop and Shop parking lot and leaving the car traffic to the main portion of the road in the main lane, I think would make things less confusing for folks who are coming and going from the Stop and Shop parking lot. Because like I said, right now, pedestrians have a sidewalk. The brick sidewalk is great, but cyclists are just in the road, in the flow of traffic. They're not always visible. Thank you.
so RJ, I believe the way that all these plans are, they still have the sidewalk parking next to Stop and Shop. There's no bike path, there's no elimination of the sidewalk parking. Is that what you're referring to, the parallel parking as opposed to the diagonal?
So I'm just referring to the side nearest Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
They refer to an option not to get rid of the parking, but to switch it with the multi-use path so that your parked cars would be a buffer between cyclists and anybody else in that path and the actual flow of traffic in the middle of the road. That was my understanding of it when I was looking at these. Not to eliminate any of those parking spots, just to shuffle them, just to switch them with, and there's a little red double-ended arrow that kind of shows you'd be switching those parking spots with the multi-use path and just putting the multi-use path closer to Stop and Shop and more out of the way of traffic. But you wouldn't be eliminating any of those parking spots. Those parking spots would still be available.
Got you. Thank you. Any further questions?
Mr. Chair, if it's helpful, just on RJ's point, I that's probably what would be the design cross section if the one-way option was determined to be desirable, and we actually did the heavy investment into reconstructing the road to have this configuration. That's probably the best practice and the safest condition for everyone. I'll just note that under the pilot program, if this was to be tried for a little while, obviously we'd have to keep it under the, I'm going to go back to the original option. It would have to be where we repurpose the southbound lane to a cycle track, and that flipping of the parking and the cycle track would have to be part of a larger investment if deemed acceptable.
Thank you, Mike. Well, speaking for myself, the whole subject makes me feel semi-paralyzed as I don't see how it's, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't, in a sense, you know. And certainly, I mean, RJ's point is right, that if you have the bike path, the delineated green painted bike path right next to the sidewalk, I think that reduces the risk of getting doored.
Mhm.
And although I suppose it means people getting out of their car, depending on which way it's going, means either they're opening their door into a single lane of traffic, their driver's door. Has that been considered? It must have been.
Well, they're
So,
doing it already now, Mr. Chair.
yeah, I mean, it's true. And one does it very carefully. So, yeah, good point. So, I hope you're not looking to me as your newly minted chair to provide direction on this one. Looking for
No, Mr.
a decision or what?
Mr. Chair, I just want to give you a just an update on some new materials, the renderings and stuff that weren't necessarily available at the previous meetings. They're in the slide deck as well. If you wanted to see what those the renderings look like that were shared with the group, I would say they're probably not the most realistic renderings, but just to give the conceptualized example of what those conditions would look like. If it's all right, as this issue progresses and advice is sought from this advisory committee, I'll put this on the agenda for future discussion.
Oh, absolutely, and the renderings are very helpful. You know, there's the property on the south side of Pleasant Street, there where they put the fencing along, and they've cut some of the trees down. Is that something that we've discussed with the town, incorporating that into widening the road there from Five Corners down? Is that feasible or not particularly? Because
Here's
Yeah.
the section of Pleasant Street next to the Phelan property. It
Right.
was mentioned at the meeting last night that the owners of the Phelan property may be amenable to allowing a path into their property. I gotta say that it would only ever be a sidewalk if we show a section closer to Five Corners. It'd be rather difficult to get a shared use path in this section of Pleasant Street. You know, where it widens out by the Phelan property, a little bit more practical to provide that, but
can you put that previous image on, please, that you were just showing, looking down from, yeah. Yeah.
well, I just had it. Where was that? Oh, it's lower. There we go.
Yeah, so that isn't giving enough additional area between the sidewalk. The grassy verge is what? That looks like it's another 6 feet. Is that, it just would be impractical, are you saying, because the sidewalk is so much higher? Or,
Probably a combination of reasons here, the grade differences and the width. I'd go double check and measure this, but I don't believe you get from curb to the face of whatever bulkhead this is here. Not 10 feet, it'd be much less than that, 8 at best, but yeah, to suggest that could be a shared use path, I think it'd be a bit of a struggle. At least in this section right here, due to the grade reasons and the constricted width, only a 5-foot sidewalk was ever recommended for this particular section of Pleasant Street.
got you, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That was one nice thing about Matt Fee brought up, is that the Phelons were interested in working with us. And I think last time we were talking about this, we thought there would be, you know, several years of, you know, working out easements, etc. So this seems like this could be a quicker path to getting what we were hoped to get done. So I think there was some positives that came out of last night's meeting, but that was the only really one that was touched on. But I think that this conversation has had a lot of people in the street reevaluating and assessing what the town needs, and I think it's a really positive thing. Even though I don't think we're going to get too far with a one way, but I do think there's a lot of positives come out of this recommendations.
Good. It's nice to know that other people are wrestling with this.
Yeah, I think we got like 3 or 4 letters that goes again, and they live on the street. So,
uh-huh. Do we want to offer any opinions of what we might favor, or should we leave it to another meeting with complete drawings? Because Edwin, not that I'm the right person to bring you up to speed, but we've talked about temporarily using traffic cones, I believe, right, Mike? Doing all sorts of things to try and see if we could see how it might work temporarily and see what opinions might lead to.
Correct. That was the recommendation that was made at the last meeting, was to at least pilot this, try it out, maybe with cones or orange barrels. And we did have a plan for actually doing that for the entire corridor. Again, it would be using the southbound lane for that path, with really no other construction involved. And the decision from the select board is like, there's too much going on in the area right now. So this probably wouldn't be a pilot that would happen in the spring or the summer. I think it would be in the fall at the earliest, or if not another future date, but that hasn't been decided just yet. And that's kind of where it was left, is that the select board would schedule a meeting to take public input on that concept and then take action on whether they actually wanted to pilot it or not.
Great, thank you for that summation.
which I think is this Wednesday, isn't it coming up, Mike? Next Wednesday?
I don't believe that's been scheduled yet.
Yeah, but I thought that was recommended maybe to put it on the agenda for next Wednesday.
Oh, it might be. If
I don't
it
know,
has,
just that one. Yeah.
I haven't been asked for a slide deck or anything, so I'm happy to put together some presentation material whenever they're willing to talk about it. And I think we got to notify the public to let them know that this is something that's being considered. I got a lot of requests there today about, when is that being scheduled and how would we know about it, that kind of a thing. So I think there has to be a whole public outreach effort to go along with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of opinions coming in. And Joe, is your hand up again? Okay. So should we move on to the bicycle safety campaign, e-bike classifications and bike helmet regulations?
I can't. I don't know if Edwin has a question for.
Oh, sorry, Edwin. My mistake.
Yeah, no, sorry. I think I'm fairly well caught up because I have watched through modern technology, the YouTube videos of the previous meetings about this subject. Just on all these alternatives that are offered, could we get just the posted speed limits within them for the future? So understanding the bicycle safety compared to the speed of the cars around them would help maybe understand each specific region which we're talking about. I know that from the slide that's currently posted, like the Pleasant Street facing south, I do see people regularly on the sidewalk, which is in pretty disrepair, and then having to jut back out, and that is seemingly where the problems are. But if they were just along that road flowing at 15-20 miles an hour, they are not impeding traffic through most of the summer because of how slow it is in that region anyway.
Mr. Chair, is that right? You said you saw people, were they pedestrians or bicyclists?
No, I've often seen bicyclists very illegally riding on the sidewalk there. But it seems to be problematic because they're fearful of the traffic. But I don't know, in other people making comments about these things, seeing the posted speed limit and noting, hey, this area actually isn't that fast. People are just driving faster than they should and driving recklessly while texting, which then makes it problematic for the bikes. But if they were obeying the speed limit and not driving while distracted, the bikes flowing with traffic in certain areas may not be as problematic as it would seem.
I don't think anybody's gonna argue with you on that one, Edwin. I mean, I bike down here 3 or 4 times a week. And really, I say to my wife almost every time, but I hope I see you when I get back. So it makes me very nervous going down from 5 Corners towards Stop and Shop. And, but how to change people's behavior, I mean, I suppose that's what we're all trying to do. So it's, if Michelle was here, he would say how different it is in Holland, but in Holland, they had to change everybody's attitude and they were successful in doing so. So it took them about 30 years, is my understanding. So, okay, if any further comments on this aspect of the agenda? So, that brings us on to the bicycle safety campaign, e-bike classifications and bike helmet regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I just want to update the committee. I think I mentioned at some previous meetings that we are doing some coordination with our town's communication staff and with the Chamber of Commerce. We've grown that actually to the land bank staff and the Nantucket conservation staff about e-bike safety and spreading information on e-bike usage and classifications and restrictions, especially on natural service paths, which affects Conservation Foundation and Land Bank. Right now, e-bikes are prohibited from those soft surface paths by statute, unless they're specifically given that right. So I think that's something that the Conservation Foundation and the Land Bank are struggling with right now. But right now, it's a restriction. So we want to roll that into some of our safety campaign material for educating cyclists this summer. Since laws are different state by state. So I think I just summarized a lot of what was on some of these slides, but the biggest focus, Mr. Chair, is to encourage bicycle registration in general. The carrot that we're using or proposing to use is to not just provide a brochure on rules of the road. That's not so much attractive, but provide stickers, Nantucket themed helmet stickers and Nantucket themed e-bike classification stickers. Regarding the e-bike classification stickers, the manufacturer does provide a description of that on the bike itself. It's very small font, very hard to read. Those next to the bike would not know the class. So there are example stickers that I can go over. The Chamber of Commerce is very adamant about encouraging bike helmets. So a bike helmet sticker is being developed. Hopefully that's a trendy, cool thing that people will want to get. And in order to get that, they need to make sure that their bike is registered and they can go to the sheriff's office or the police department and do that. I promised communication staff I would not share that image with you. So there's not an image of that sticker in here. We wanted to share that with some others and then have a more of an unveiling at a later date. And then I had mentioned the e-bike classification issues. So regarding encouraging the bike registration, all bikes do need to be registered. That's by local statute. We do need to update a bike safety brochure. As you might recall, Kevin Marshall had worked with BPAC in years past. They're currently out of copies of that safety brochure and it needs to be updated and then reprinted. And then I did mention the Nantucket themed stickers. Cost incentives, I did speak with the police chief. There is an appetite to have registration be free. It's just $2.50 now, so it's a trivial amount of money. The police chief is warm or gave a soft yes to the idea of perhaps making that a free step to further encourage registration of bicyclists, so we know exactly what numbers there are out there, and so that those who do register get the materials. I went through a lot of this material on bike helmets where it says insert examples. That's where I was going to until I promised that I would not share that image. Maybe next month, if that's all right. And then we have
bated breath.
It is kind of cool. I'm not gonna, it's as cool as a bicycle helmet sticker can be.
Good.
It's
We
kind of
expect
fun.
nothing less from you, Mike.
Well, thank God I didn't have too much to do with it other than encouraging and promoting the idea. Florencia Rulo, who was going to be at this meeting but just had a conflict. She's much better artistically than I am, and it definitely is a fun design. And small too. It's actually got to fit on the helmet. Regarding the classification stickers, there's an example here in the top right. By state statute, it does need to have the class number, the size of the motor on the electric motor on the bicycle, and the top speed. Here's an example in the top right of what's used in other states. Our communication staff is going to make that more of an Nantucket themed sticker. So be fun to see what those look like. And if there is a question from Joe Topham, I'm happy to answer that.
I sorry to interrupt, but I just thought the classes, and they're all in black and white, but I feel that, class 1 could be in yellow, and then class 2 in orange, and class 3 in red or something may really kind of jump it out. So visually, you're not gonna be able to read that as it's going by, but the colors I think would really jump out. That is class 3 and does not belong on the bike path. I think that would help.
That's a great idea. Yeah.
Since class 3s are highly restricted, they're not allowed on paths or sidewalks or anything like this. You have a color suggestion?
Yeah, black for class 3, and green and yellow for 1 and 2.
Right. Yeah. Something just jumps out to the eye. I mean, that instead of saying stop, now you got to check your bike. You can just look at the color of the
Right.
tag.
I'll share that. Great feedback. And I did make some a mention of the bike safety brochure, and that is going to add language about e-bike classes, and that they aren't allowed on land bank or conservation foundation property. I cut and paste this into a slide and there's 3 pages of rules and best practices on what to do on your e-bike. This language was in Kevin Marshall's bike safety brochure, and I think by putting it into a slide, you see that's very text heavy. And I don't know if anybody would ever read every one of these bullet points. What I told the communication staff that I would help with is wordsmith this down to be much more succinct, to where it could be, easily reviewed by those who get that brochure. That said, I'll ask this group if there's any writers in the crowd that might want to tackle this over the next few weeks and give some suggested language back. If not, I'm happy to do it, but wanted to give that option to the committee if there's 1 or 2 of you that might want to take a stab at this. And RJ wins.
So
I'm a wordsmith.
RJ just volunteered, I believe. Because it's going to be difficult to pare it down because they're all sensible. So are you thinking of staggering the brochure so that if people want to delve in, they can go from a few bullet points to the more fundamental, or are you just thinking that to make it thinner?
Definitely thrift. Just hack away a lot of the verbose nature of some of the sentences. It is pretty thrifty, but it could definitely be whittled down a lot.
Okay. All right.
I have faith in our new vice chair.
Are you what?
I have faith in our new vice chair.
Thank you,
Joe.
Joseph. Absolutely. So there you go, RJ. Serves you right for volunteering. So yes, Edwin.
Simplistic, but probably not simplistic point. It seems that we are asking people to voluntarily put e-bike classification stickers on their bikes, which I love the idea of them being color coded, but you're asking people to voluntarily put a class 3 sticker on a bike, which would then not allow them to use the bike on a variety of places on the island. And I don't think that people are going to voluntarily put a class 3 on it. And I think we may end up in a system akin to in the restaurant world where I am, where people are often bringing in fake classification cards for service dogs, which are clearly not. That's just a point that it seems that if it's a volunteer-based Nantucket-themed classification sticker, we may not sell out of the Class 3 stickers.
Well, that's a good point. Is it going to be mandatory, in fact? And are there, with the bicycle registration, if it's mandatory, which it would appear to be so, are there penalties that would make people think twice? That's to you, Mike.
By statute, I think the fines are capped, some trivial amount, $20, something like this.
Right,
So
yeah.
they couldn't be charged more than that. And because all bikes are required to be registered, the idea is that, if this takes off, this registration campaign, safety campaign, that'll be more noticeable than a bike not having, an electric bike not having a sticker than ones that with a sticker. That's the hope and the strategy. Talking to staff at the Conservation Foundation, one of the staff people we worked with had just purchased a Class 3, completely understood the rules and restrictions on it. He didn't say whether he would apply one of these Nantucket themed stickers on it. Perhaps there could be some hesitancy or shame, I guess, for having a bike that's not required. But I want to say that it would be more noticeable not to have the sticker than to have the sticker. That was the kind of the angle that we were taking.
So does the sticker come with the when you register the bike? The steamship in the Yarmouth Road parking lot won't let you put your own sticker on. They don't trust you, so they actually, they have one of their staff put it on. And is that going to be the same protocol at the police station, that they actually come out and put the sticker on your bike? Or
I don't think so. I think when I had my bike registered, they just gave me the little sticker and I had to put it on
Right.
myself with some verbal about this is where it needs to go. But
Right.
they give it to the citizen and they do it themselves.
Yeah.
I assume it'd be
Joseph?
done the same way here.
And if I could just follow up, I think it would be great to have that registration, but with vehicles, when you register a vehicle, you also have to pass inspection. With a bike classification, which is a problem for many years down the road because we're so far behind with classification at the state level, it seems like you could have a Class 3, but there's no reason why you couldn't have dual motors to be faster, or have a gear ratio changed, which would allow pedal assist to go much faster than the throttle assist is there. So it seems like until you have inspection of the vehicle or the e-bike, a Class 3 can still, people would still be enhancing or putting fake stickers on things. It's just a problem that's going to happen for a while, I guess.
Joseph?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Edward, that's a really good point. And, like if you're going to the Gauls, they will not let you touch the sticker they have to put on your vehicle. But I'm wondering if we could, maybe get some of the bike shops to work with us and work with the police. And then the other thing, I don't know if you remember this, Mr. Gould, that we made Jeff Carlson deputized to write tickets. And I didn't know if that was something Mike Burns was interested in doing for us. Remember when there was violations and he could go out. And I didn't know if that was something we could do as a, I know the police are a little inundated by stuff they've got to do, but I didn't know if that was something we could ask the town where he's a town employee or notified someone that, there's a problem with X, Y, and Z or whatever. But I just think maybe the bike shops could be really helpful with his whatever, a half dozen or so. That could be easy to go down there, sign up if you're getting your bike repaired, replaced, whatever you got to do, that they could, say, here's the phone work, here's the information, write it out, check to this, or a couple $2 to whatever, but I got to put this tag on there. And then also they're going to be renting bikes, so a lot of bikes will be going out of their shops, so they'll also be going up. But it's really a way to encapsulate everyone in the world of on Nantucket of riding a bike and what they'll need to do going forward. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. I remember registering bikes as a teenager back in the '60s. I don't have any of my bikes registered right now, so I can see I'm gonna have to, set an example. So, Mike, do you feel like being deputized?
I, I'll have to talk with my supervisor on that, I think.
Yeah, does it come with a uniform?
Yeah. Joe, I guess it goes both ways. I can volunteer you, you can volunteer me, huh?
There we go.
For a letter of recommendation to say that you're upstanding citizen, Mike.
Well, definitely we need to reach out to the bike shops on this, if you haven't done so already. Have you started that process, Mike, or?
No, not outside of, I believe it's Jasper Young, attended some of our meetings, but not really beyond that. I guess since our last meeting, I just did running around to the police station and talking to different officers and trying to see if they understood the process and help locate the brochure that Kevin Marshall developed, because I can't find any copies of that anywhere. And the rest of it. But yeah, that would be probably the next step, is to bring in some of the bike owners and help out with this effort.
Yeah. All right, cool. So then, other business? Committee comments? Joe, okay, any comments? I know I brought up with Mike the perennial, nuisance stop signs, so if you'd like to update us at our next meeting, how that's going?
Sure, I can update you now. I did share this with the DPW director. We are planning to add this to a future traffic safety agenda meeting to review. All that after the NPDEC endorsed the recommendation of BPAC. So this was reviewed by the NPDEC. I have discussed it with the DPW director. We will have it on a future traffic safety meeting, and sometime this spring, we will be doing site visits to develop work orders to have that work done as recommended by BPAC. So it probably won't be signs removed in February or March. This will be more of like a spring going into the summer effort.
Great. Well, can you let us know when that meeting is so that we can attend?
Yes.
That would be great. Thank you. And then any public comments? And seeing not, motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Joseph. Seconded. Thank you, RJ.
Yeah, and that was awesome, but then I was
So
like,
by roll call
when I
vote,
understood the scope of the project.
John
that's not
McKinnon?
gonna work, because they
I-
didn't have so much time.
Joseph
as well,
Topham?
You know what I mean? We will lose
Aye.
focus. It needs to be
RJ
compressed
Turcott?
so they can see what they're
Aye.
doing. We've got someone here that can do a little cleanup
Edwin
on it or
Claflin?
something.
Aye.
But,
Ian
you know,
Golding,
obviously
aye.
it's glaring.
And Michelle Kramer had to leave early. Thank you very much, Mike.
So let me take a look.
And thank you
Welcome to the
everybody
team.
for showing
Ones
up.
I got yesterday
and,
are the 10.
Happy bicycling. Well, still a little cold. Getting close.
The weather's not bad, your clothes are bad, Mr. Chair. You can dress for anything.
Yeah, so true, so true.
You know what
Now look
Dave
at
sent
that.
me? I mean,
An
I've got
example to
pictures
us
of
all.
pictures every day.
Thanks, Edwin.
I'm
All
so
right.
sorry to ask
Good
you.
evening, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you all.